And I can tell you why we did that. I mean, overall, we're really close to the target that you requested of us. But we did that because, in every DA office that I've worked in, well, except for Clark County, Clark County, it was this way. And then when Carl came here, he was kind of surprised that we didn't have a phone that was dedicated for work purposes. Something that this is the number law enforcement uses if the DA's, so it doesn't matter if the DA's out of town or if Carl's out of town, the person who's available, that's the one number they can call. It's also dedicated to any text or any, that kind of communication we might be doing. And so that's really the only ask that we have.
Not for the DA specifically, or the ADA, an on-call phone for the office.
So like a cell phone.
Right, for dispatch, it would be a number dispatch would have, if they needed to get a hold of us overnight for warrants or an emergency or that kind of thing, as opposed to getting a hold of us on our personal phones. And, so far what I've just been doing is giving dispatch my personal number, to make those calls. And when I was gone 3 days last week, and I gave Carl's information to dispatch, that I was gonna be gone, but it would probably be more consistent for law enforcement and dispatch not to have to figure out which number to call or those
Well, right
kinds
now,
of
we're
things.
looking at cutting about $5 million from the budget right now, so we gotta figure out where we're gonna cut that from.
Yep. Okay.
It's
Well-
usually about, so you'd have to go to property and get approval for,
And we haven't
That-
taken it to our
Yes.
committee yet either, it's
No.
still in the potential stages, which is why it was on there.
okay,
That's a possibility.
So that's, I think, the biggest change. I think the only other things that you'll notice is that as we're trying to project, going forward, we don't really know our discovery amounts. That we're moving from one system to another in terms of how we give recordings out and how we charge for that. The old system is, we burn a CD and we charge for the CD. Now we've gone to a link, and statute sets how much we can charge for that. And of course, the kind of cases we have and how much of that is out of our control, it depends on the investigation, is it a big case or is it, something smaller? So we're kind of mid-year in transitioning to that system, so.
So that would impact the sale of copies line if you go down to the next section. Right now, we just have it projected the same as typical for that 4,000. That may, and it may, because it'll be per megabyte instead of per disk, there's a chance that could impact us positively too. We just don't know enough yet to be able to project differently whether it's gonna be up or down.
Maybe the only other thing two things to call to your attention is, we've had, special prosecution fees, I think maybe have typically been a little higher in our office because there were a lot of conflicts. There was a public defender that was hired as an assistant. There, our former DA had been a public defender. And so there were cases that just had to be given out to other counties. I have no conflicts, so if Carl, who has been a defense attorney, but probably a prosecutor longer than a defense attorney, if he had a conflict, that case could come to me. It doesn't make it an office conflict in that regard. So I expect those numbers to go down. And then right now, again, our diversion program fees are up. That's something that we're not totally in control of. It depends on the kind of cases coming in, but that is part of the DA's office's fees that I'm hoping to expand. I'm hoping to actually develop that kind of program, formalized program in our office. And so hopefully that won't go down, but I think what has been a big expense for our office, special prosecution and those kinds of things, has been offset by our ability to collect some more fees in that area, and I'm hoping that that'll continue. But we can't promise.
so questions on this tab? Crime victim witness.
And again, this part of the budget, the reimbursement we get from the state, that fluctuates from the state, and so, that 40%, if you look, 2022 is much higher, 48.95, but that's set by the state. So apparently the history has been to simply, put 40% in as the target number, but that has been a fluctuating number, that is not something that we control.
It has never gone below the 40% though, so that's why we kind of use that as a safe baseline. And we don't know it for the year coming, we find out at the end of the year how much they'll reimburse backwards.
And then youth and justice, again, this is one where we are above the target. But that the fee proposed by finance, just in terms of, you know, employee expenses, that's pretty fixed. That's not something that we really have any control over. He really doesn't have a lot of expenses, as you can see. And then if he does get some fees in, again, that's, you know, referrals and just depends on his caseload and workload in terms of whether he's collecting those fees, but his actual expenses aren't much, and so what puts us over is his actual cost of employment.
He does have one training coming up, but it's later this year, so there is, he's already said if it's not mandatory, he's hoping to be able to just do that virtually, but he doesn't have confirmation yet if it's gonna be a mandatory in-person one or not. So even though that isn't spent yet, I don't think
And there are expenses that we can get reimbursed for, is it the Prime for Life?
Mm-hmm.
So Jeremy Jacobs has a budget within Health and Human Services that, the expenses get turned in, he can reimburse for that. And so this 12 months, is that based off of what you have? Okay, but you don't know what he actually has in for costs?
No, the only, income line that we are aware of is the participant fees, the rest all somehow comes from the magic you guys.
Okay, cause you need, yeah, to get Jeremy those wages and costs related to Prime for Life so that he can, you know, reimburse for those.
Okay. I have never done anything with that before, so we can talk
Yeah,
later.
like
find out
we
if
can
there's
help
anything I need to do.
calculate the cost, but we don't have, you know, the weight, you know, the hours or anything like that. And then, you know, materials or anything related to Prime for Life.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause the 2022 actual was more 1,400, but I think, you know, expenses didn't get turned in, so we kinda missed the boat. I think that grant ends March, goes through March or something, so, yeah. It's the primary
How come the
prevention
expenses
facility.
didn't get turned in?
Because Jeremy never received them. I think he had told Rich that, like, hey, I can, you know, I got money, I got this pot of money that, and then he never. I'm not entirely sure what happened.
I'll follow
There,
up,
but I
make
know
sure we
that
don't miss
the
it
window
for the next
closed,
one, 'cause I
yeah.
don't know
Right,
anything
and
about
I didn't
that.
know anything about Jeremy's ability to reimburse us, so.
Yeah, I think it's primary prevention funds.
Okay, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I will follow up on that.
Anybody have any questions here?
Very simple.
What all the damage we can do, I guess, so.
have been another, I think he had maybe a couple different, but I can't remember for sure. Yeah, and maybe Rich just never passed along, or, I know it was something that Charmaine always used to take care of when it was,
Oh, so maybe it's something you can talk to Charmaine about instead of Jeremy.
well, but you guys had she did it when she had the budget.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, to do something.
I feel like, well, you guys had it in 22 though, and it was at $1,400 in 22.
Yeah, and I know that wasn't anything that I did outwardly. I mean, just, so, yeah, I will find out.
That's. Do you guys have anything?
I guess that should be it then, so we thank you for coming down.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, ladies.
So historically, how much have we borrowed per year? 'Cause I know we borrow and then we levy against it and that's been going on
For
for about.
capital projects, like ongoing has been 3 million every other year, is what,
That was only once, I think.
Okay.
That was only once, and then before that, we never borrowed?
We did borrow, oh gosh, that's about maybe 6-7 years ago, we did borrow 8 million for highway. And they used that over a period of 4 years.
So
Two
some of
million-
that for
2
the-
million.
a year.
That was some for the plant.
So now we wanna go to 3 million a year.
Nope, 3
No.
million every 2 years.
Oh, 3, one.
Plus we have that
Somebody
big
did
project
that
coming up on
for
M,
two,
that's 80/20, I think it's
No, we
80/20.
didn't borrow anything for that, they were.
That's like a
gonna pay for
$7 million
that.
project up on M,
Borrow for
that's an
Well,
80/20.
We did
That's gonna get
borrow
done in
for it,
20.
and the highway was supposed to pay us back,
The,
and I don't know where we're at with
The
that.
plant?
Yeah.
Yeah, highway, the payments for that, bond come out of the highway budget.
Can you get me historical data like on the last 15 years of bonding, or what we've levied against by borrowing money?
I'm just trying to think of what the easiest, I mean, you can look at the financial statements, like our outstanding debt issues and the years that those were issued would all be in the financial statements, I don't,
And I would find that in a Z drive
they're on our website, but they're, yeah.
on the county website.
Mm-hmm. Off the finance page.
Oh wait, I gotta get out of this code red one.
Apparently.
And this only goes back to, what, 2017?
Right, but all the outstanding debt issues would be listed in the notes to the financial statements in the year that they were issued. So, I'm trying to think of what. But I mean, so, let's see, in this year's budget, or for the 2023 budget, we had 1,489,360 of debt service added on above and beyond the levy limit, which was used for capital projects. We reduced that by about 300,000, from the proceeds from the sale of the Owens Corning Conway building, otherwise that would have been more like over 1.7, can't remember exactly what.
What year was it?
This year's 2023's levy. So,
We borrowed money last year?
no, that was their debt service levy.
Debt service, okay, well, but the debt service isn't gonna tell me what we borrowed that year.
Right, the notes to the financial statements will tell you about the outstanding debt issues. But pretty much any expenditures that happen in the capital projects fund are funded by debt, or by borrowing. Because the only way that you can increase the allowable levy is by issuing general obligation debt. And then the principal and interest from that general obligation debt can go over and above the levy to pay that down. So you can't save your way to say we need to do $1.5 million of road projects next year. We can't cut that from our operating budgets without cutting out, say, the sheriff's department.
We used to.
But that's when you could raise your levy,
Well, no, we did, that levy limit's been there for a long time.
since 2011. Yeah,
Well, we started borrowing for highway, that would have been 2015 or, yeah, 2015, so.
I think Phil Montvell was commissioner at the time when we borrowed that money.
He left it,
And then
he left in 2015, so it must have been
Okay.
for the budget of 2015, yeah.
Okay, so that's about, I'll say
So-
30, so.
I mean, so that, and I started in 14, so I don't know what they did for 2014 for, funding road projects or what, I don't even remember what kind of
They did
road
something,
projects
though.
we would've had, but if, you know, that's only, like, 4 years of trying to balance the budget without borrowing for road projects, so.
Well, and I'm sure it was easier just to borrow the money. They're, let the taxpayers pay,
But there's
right?
well, the taxpayers are gonna have to pay for it anyway, like,
Not
I
if
mean, for
you-
road construction, I mean.
Not if you
they're-
don't levy against it.
But
If you
if
cut
we,
some,
if
you
we
cut
have
enough,
to,
if you cut enough
but
other
you're
stuff.
cutting other services that the taxpayers probably will
Well,
like.
so then I would say if we are so convinced that the taxpayers agree with us, that we should put it out for referendum. And let them decide, right? Or do you think that the taxpayers would disagree and we're afraid that they would vote no?
For roads? I don't think they.
Well, you'd have to put the total budget in there.
well, they.
Sure, then if that's the case, yeah, we'll say, hey, put out for referendum.
Do you think they'd say no to roads improvements?
I think that there's a lot of people that if we told them that we're borrowing money every year and in order for us to balance the budget, we need to go for referendum, they would vote no.
She said, do you think they'd wanna go back to driving on gravel roads again?
Maybe we need some more help on the budgets.
It's very difficult when you're a small county with
Yeah.
limited revenue.
Yeah. You gotta start doing some layoffs.
Okay. I mean, I voted no on a lot of these hiring sprees that we did anyways.
Where would you start?
I probably went to hired another IT guy, I went to
Huh?
hired another highway guy, I went to hired all kinds of hiring that we've done lately.
The highway was basically to replace what's been out there.
No, it was replacing a position that got canceled. Because at the time they decided they didn't need it. Same with IT. We don't need new squad cars every 5 years, we don't need new forestry trucks every couple of years.
Nobody in every couple of years.
Well, I mean, yeah, out there, we've held the line tighter because we don't get bullied as much as we do by the sheriff's department.
I don't know if I'd wanna drive a 7-year-old car, 8-year-old car.
Well, we said 7 the other day.
No, you said 7.
I said 7. I should say, I said 7 the other day and everybody else said no. And, Tom's driving them 10 years old
There's.
for ambulance.
That's a different deal.
Mhm.
That's a 1-ton chassis. You're not comparing apples to apples. I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not trying to say that what the road you're going down is the wrong road, but you're not comparing vehicle to vehicle. That's a 1-ton chassis that's been custom modified to be an ambulance. That's why they cost so much money.
I buy vehicles that are
and
10 years old.
I we can get 10 years out of them, I think we should get 7 to 10 years out of them for the amount of money we have into them. That's why we pay that big money to get that type of a vehicle with all this extra money that's put into it and stuff, you know what I mean? I mean, if we wanna just have something for a couple of years, we'd go buy a van and pad the walls and throw a cot in there and say, here we go, guys. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
we paid triple the money of that vehicle, so hopefully it lasts. If you look at it that way. But, and if the sheriff's department's gonna keep getting vehicles, and then we gotta figure out a way to trickle them down into other departments, whether it be forestry needs a pickup, whatever, then sheriff's department needs to get more pickups, and that stuff needs to trickle down through, like we said earlier, but the problem is, it's gonna take, we gotta bear the burden of that until it all gets caught up on the bottom end. I don't know if we can do that.
I don't know how much highway would like it, but I think there are other counties that use those Explorers for their flagger vehicles versus having a 1-ton pickup.
He might have to take a couple of them. I mean, the 1-tons, I get it, we need 1-tons.
They
But
can't,
like,
I
could
mean,
a
you can't haul
person,
anything with it or anything, but they haul people.
could the operations manager have a vehicle like that to just go out, I mean, it's a 1/2-ton pickup anyhow, what's the difference?
Right.
Where's the
Well-
1/2-ton pickups going, wasn't there 1 or 2 in the sheriff's department now? I thought they had a pickup.
They have,
think they
yeah,
have,
Mhm.
I think they have, do they have 2? Or just-
Yeah, there's one coming out next year, but, forestry's hoping to get that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, so what have we done with those thus
Yeah.
far?
Maintenance got the last one, and before that, they were selling them at auction, and that's why we brought the squad cars into the fleet.
Yeah.
When you had that, was it 2.1 million to cut? Had you figured any, general fund money?
No,
How much have
no.
you figured in there, so?
I didn't figure any into that yet, I just kinda wanted to, yeah.
Typically, you use about $1 million.
Yeah,
Is that the 5-year average?
yeah,
Do?
yeah, I'm just waiting on, kinda wanted to see where it shook out
Yeah,
first.
see where we land here, so.
And I'm working on calculating, what the project, but that's really not gonna change all that much, because our levy limits don't go up with the cost of inflation and everything else. Our equalized values are going up, but that's just causing our mill rates to go down because we can't increase our levy based on that.
We will be anticipating an increase in, revenue sharing this.
Yes, and that's included in these amounts that I'm already here, another 730,000.
I thought it was more like $1 million. No, 700?
And that new construction went up 1.37%.
1.3, okay.
So that's the only thing besides debt that can increase our levy limit.
Maybe instead of buying new stuff for the courthouse and shiny stuff all the time, we need to focus on economic development, and maybe people will start building more stuff.
You just gotta get me started about that economic development director, don't you? I know where you're going
We
here.
need people to work the jobs though too.
What's going on?
That's
Just
what
economic
My
we
brother asked for that
Oh,
position at
was
first,
it
you know.
with, tourism or something?
I just told him I didn't wanna see another position created until I seen where the budget was at, because why try to fund a position unless you know you're gonna be able to sustain it?
I mean, that's the one position that could possibly, up the budget if they actually did a good job, right? If they brought some economic development here, you'd have new construction.
Somebody else scheduled or not?
No, that's all we had for today.
We did Ashley's budget, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And the county clerk, I believe. we
Yeah,
did.
so looking at this list, we already did Ashley's, animal shelter is coming, next week. CDVG, Carolyn's coming tomorrow right away at 8:30, we did circuit court, we did corp council, we did the county clerk already, we did county board already. Just did the DA, crime victim witness, drug court will be part of HHS, economic development, we looked at that one already as well. Emergency government we did, finance, we'll have to revisit towards the end, but we did look at that last week. Forestry we did, HHS will be next week, highways tomorrow at 9 AM, IT we did. Land conservation, we just got that one back today, so we need to work with the department on that before it's ready to present to you guys. We did library, we did maintenance, we did medical examiner, did RCTC, did register of deeds, sheriff is coming tomorrow, treasurer is coming tomorrow. And we did UW extension.
So where's all the big increases coming from? I mean, I've seen some increases, but not enough to make up 2.2.
So, right here.
Nickel and dimes.
Well, a big part of
Well,
it
so
is
some of
too, is right here, because we put 2.2 in the used from general fund in our 2023 budget, and I just put that to 0 for now. So if I were to plug that into here,
General fund has been in
Then we
pretty
should-
good shape, I'm not sure, what do we have now for?
fund balance at the end.
But last year we didn't, loan any money out. And we were balanced with that. Now, this year, we won't be balanced by putting that much in the from the general fund without loaning $3 million.
But we were using fund balance and we were using capital projects fund balance to make up that difference.
Yeah, we paid off some debt last year too, didn't we? Wasn't that the general fund, I thought?
We
Paid off
used
something?
300 some from the sale of the Owens Corning Conway building to reduce our debt service levy.
I thought there was something else. Oh,
Let me run a report quick.
I don't know how much we can count on those, carbon credits.
I don't think,
That pie in the sky yet, or?
I don't think we should budget for them.
Yeah, I agree, yeah, I don't think.
And yes, we've seen them, we don't know that we have them, right?
I don't think there's anything scheduled for, and it's not gonna be enough to, you know,
It won't balance the budget,
Right.
that's for sure. But even if we got credits, we're talking about last quarter this year issuing and then first quarter next year getting, but really, I mean, by the time you really get paid out for them, who knows, it could be another year. We don't know that for sure. It's new.
so our general fund balance at the end of 22 is just over 20 million, but some of that's, you know, that's not all unrestricted available. Let me just pull up my
After 22, you said no, but you're taking out 2.2 million in 23
so,
for budget purposes.
yes, yep, and so.
You need to carry at least 30% of your levy in the general fund. I mean, that's pretty much
Yeah.
a golden rule.
Reserve
30 or 35%, is it?
30, a 90-day.
A 90-day supply of money you need.
So if our levy's 8.4, we need to have at least almost 3 million.
Almost three.
And we've got
27.
that, you know, and the biggest part is, you know, we're budgeting conservatively for stumpage revenue. You know, we budgeted a
And there could
million,
be
we almost
another-
hit 3 million in 2022, so.
And we've budgeted $1 million.
Which was lower today, we raised it a little bit, cause it was always way out of whack.
So, yeah, we're sitting, at the end of 22, had about 20 million in our general fund balance.
But how much is unrestricted?
Yeah, we could be more
Over
realistic, we could be more realistic with forestry and raise it to 1.5, that takes care of 500,000.
We do have a healthy general fund. Push come to shove, you can,
But we already did that, remember it was like 600,000 in forestry and we went to the million or whatever it was, because I think I brought it up, I'm like, this is way too out of whack for what they actually have coming in every year.
I think we looked at a 5-year average.
But yet you could run into another year sometime where, like 2 years ago when they supposedly couldn't sell any wood, or Versa was leaving, but it sure is funny, we almost had a record year on top of it, so I'm still confused by those numbers, but.
Oh, I do know pulp prices are coming, I don't know much about forestry, but I know the pulp because, I mean, we do mostly recycle that mill, but virgin pulp has come down so much, we considered just using virgin.
Well, and some of this, okay, you look at here, we got 7.6 and then we go to 8.4. Well, 500 of that's, well, how much was our wage increase? 4 something, 500?
Yeah, about 500.
Well, there's half of it, then that I knew was gonna carry into 24. So,
If we didn't do as much of a wage increase next year, we could cut down contingency some too.
and that might be a cold hard fact. Plus, I think our insurance is going up this next year too, correct?
Yeah, we don't have, I mean, we don't know for sure, they won't release,
You got
Our
something
rules
built in
until-
for that though, or no?
in contingency, yes.
we had a 0% increase this past year, so
The
I think.
last 2 years.
We're gonna be,
This year here, they're waiting for us around the corner with a belly club.
Yeah.
They're gonna give you that. They're like, you don't get 2 years of that.
Yeah, we're taking back this year and last year.
So that's not helping. So if you end up with 150, 200,000 there, and then the wage increase they did last year, well, now we're, few people come in with their budgets a little over, I mean, yeah, we picked them apart, well, okay. How did we end up, no, you got your year-end projection, okay, that's your projection. What was actually, oh, the levy for 23, okay, I wasn't reading that right. But in that 1.2 difference between the levy and the projection was the wage increase.
And then, you know, these are the changes here for each of the budgets. And granted, these, you know, land information ones we're still working on here.
Decrease, okay, that's not, we didn't calculate carbon credits, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that we would see something next year, but I wouldn't bank on it until
But
we
as
see it.
Jared said too, we need to put some of that aside in a reserve to maintain compliant with the.
Exactly, and the other thing is we, did some, you know, we're closing down trails with the idea that we're gonna make trails that are usable. So we're gonna wanna set aside a percentage of that to be used for, you know, tourism type stuff. Probably a big chunk of carbon credit money.
Again, they've got. The what?
Some of those notes are from last year.
So far, I'd have to say today, the biggest increase I saw in a department was IT and maintenance.
Would it be a legal expense for the county to buy lottery tickets? 1.5
Well,
billion.
you could win, is that what it's up to now?
I think that's what I heard this morning.
Nobody's won that thing yet. I didn't buy a ticket last week, 'cause I'm sure somebody won it by now.
You know, if people would've bought the tickets for the fire hall for me, I sold the winning ticket. My buddy won $1,200. I didn't sell Jamie the winning ticket though.
No, you
I sold her a loser.
You could win, Randy, and donate some money back to the county. Somewhere along the way, you could donate some money to the county, see, that would work. Yeah, you won 1.5 million, you wanna donate back like 10 million to run the county for a year? I don't think anybody would grumble.
No, I don't think so.
If I win the Powerball, I will personally buy the police department's new squad cars. For 1 year, just the 4 squads.
You gotta buy them to win though.
Well, I'm not gonna buy a ticket. I have better things to waste my money on.
If I win the Powerball at the or the Mega Millions at the 1.5 billion, I would donate enough back to run the county for 1 year.
It'd be fun to have it just to play with it.
I'd donate back to 1 year's worth of the budget.
Yeah, but that.
In hopes I had a good accountant that could write it off for me on top of it, but I mean,
Yeah, but then once they got used to that for 1 year, then they'd expect the budget would be twice as much.
they get
Well,
1
we
year
did
to
it
pay off
last-
some bills, that'd be the
Yeah.
most I'd do.
Well, are we finished for the day then? Do you have anything else you wanna hash over?
I was just working on calculating, manually updating the levy limits, since I haven't updated that,
It'd be fun to have it once, just.
worksheet, yeah, that, I think that gets released on the
Well, if I
15th
win,
of
I'm
this
getting
month,
the, I've been buying the mega player too when I buy the tickets, so I should be sitting pretty good.
Oh, okay.
If I win,
Okay.
yeah.
but it's not gonna
10
amount to
million
much.
isn't gonna hurt. I've come to the theory, every time I buy a ticket, I just screw up the whole thing and throw all the numbers off by one. And nobody wins.
Got your numbers, you go quick.
I just love to pick them. Figure if it's my time, it's my time. I stopped one day in Holcomb, bought 2 of them, one of the mega player shoes, you know, that's $3 a piece, don't you? If you buy the mega player, I said, I'm going on the whole synopsis here, that I'm on a whim and a prayer, so I said, what's a couple more bucks?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think our allowable levy will increase by about 81,000. Yeah, it's
How much?
81,000 for the net new construction.
Don't spend it all in one place, no.
Which department?
Well, honestly, that is enough to cover the 2 additional working days in 2024.
Okay.
Hey, we solved something.
Yeah,
What did you, calculate the net new construction at?
it's 1.37%, but that's the
And you're
preliminary
taking,
number.
what'd you say, how many year average?
That's the preliminary net new construction number released by the DOR.
And they give us that number every year then for the following year there.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get that?
The Department of Revenue website.
Okay.
Okay, I'm close. Let me just open up. That's primarily because of the maintenance time. You know, it's a wash between if you take the.
He's just messing with me.
Okay, Phil, I suppose.
I agree. I think all the.
It's not, I mean, let's be honest, it's not hard the last year or two. With the prices of fuel that's went up and expenses and repairs and labor. I can't say that, I was hoping it wouldn't be this bad, but I can't say that I'm totally shocked either.
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Look at the cost of vehicles.
I mean, everything's 10 to 20%. But yet the county's supposed to still provide the same services at the same capacity with less. Doesn't leave you a lot of options.
Okay, that's what I'm projecting our allowable levy to be.
Where did we take the money from to do the, architect planning too? Where did that end up coming out of?
Capital projects, and if we move forward with the project, it's through a reimbursement resolution, so, we would reimburse ourselves out of bond proceeds.
You feel, I think that ad hoc jail meeting's going on right now, should we go down there and just tell them the
Hold on.
party's over, you're all kicked out, meeting adjourned?
I'd be fine with that. I'll do it if you got my back on that.
Well, there's another one, what do you do? We can kick it down the road,
Say no.
it's not gonna happen right away anyhow, by the time they get done with this whole thing, it's gonna be 2-3 years for you, and I think push all on the ground.
I'm not so sure I like it where it's going. Where it's proposed.
I'm trying to ignore it right now until I actually hear harder numbers.
I mean, with plugging in, I mean, I think this is a pretty accurate amount aside from not having the exact amount for the library assessment. That's a pretty accurate amount of what our levy's gonna be, our allowable. Cause that includes the ambulance, that includes the debt service for 2024.
8.763.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at where? Oh, about 10
So, yeah, 20 or 2.1 is where,
Still, okay, I got it. I was reading the wrong line.
yeah, and I think we were kind of planning on using like a 5-year average of the general fund profit.
So actually,
So,
if you go back to where you were before that, when you're done there, that previous page.
Or up here, that,
So our debt service, yeah, like you said, we levied 1.8. So if we can get it down to 1.8 or lower, where's, if, am I reading this right? We'd be as good as last year or better on total debt service. What's included in debt service? Was that,
this, well, the debt service levy amount is included in here, so it's a wash.
oh,
The debt service goes up because we're borrowing money. That's what it goes from.
It goes up because of the payments that we have to make.
Right, because we're borrowing money, though, the payments are going up.
Well, on payments for that borrowed money, yes.
Right.
But it's based on the amounts that we have to pay in 2024.
And that debt service includes the borrowed money for the sheriff's cars,
Yes.
that's all in there, anything we,
Joint management properties, yes.
in order to get to that number, we have to cut it by $1 million, is that what I think he said? $1,000,001?
To get our levy without debt service, you mean?
No,
No, he's talking about the general fund transfer, right?
to get the debt service back where it was last year, we gotta take $1 million out of that, if I'm reading that right, 2.1, to get it back up.
You're talking about the 1 point,
This is our debts, this is the amount of debt levy for debt service, so it went up by 230,000 for debt service levy.
Okay, yep. I was going for the levy to levy.
Oh, gotcha.
I was looking at levy to levy, not.
Yeah, so our our levy went up then by. $120,000.
I didn't do that bad.
We can cut it somewhere, Phil.
Good.
We can shave a few $100,000.
Yeah, that ain't as bad for what we got.
Piece of cake. This guy's gonna come in tomorrow and have it all worked out for us.
Oh, she said a lot of it's gonna be cut out of highway. Huh?
We're gonna take the same percentage out of highway we take out of airport.
Okay. Sure. I'm good with that.
We just gotta turn those lights off after dark out there at the airport.
Yeah, but then it sounds like to get the programming for that, it'd be.
And no plowing the snow in the winter time at the airport either.
That's
Highway's gonna be short, so,
no, highway doesn't plow it.
yeah, no, we're gonna have to cut maintenance budget too, and that's where we're gonna have to cut.
Okay, so a 5-year
They
average
didn't
of
plow it last winter anyways, the only NOTAMs there was for the airport
Okay,
runway being shut down.
5-year average of the general fund profit is 1.981 million. So if we use that, that would increase, that would.
Okay,
keep
now how
out
does
there.
that compare to, okay, say that again?
Okay, if we take a 5-year average of the general fund profit, meaning, what the financial statements shake out to be, their general fund revenues in excess of expenditures, the 5-year average is that 1.8 million,
Okay,
or 1.981. So if we had, if we plug that in here.
So you get answers.
Then that's what we shake out to be at.
I think we should continue to cut like we're cutting 2 million and then start adding stuff in. After
so we
cut.
need to cut 125,000 out of the highway budget and 20,000 out of the airport budget, we'll be done.
Okay. That'll
Done.
get us to where,
I'll find the 125 in the highway budget.
that's where then we'll get to where we're
We just add the
even
stomach revenue.
by taking out a loan, but then we still got another,
We just
we
add
still got
it,
another
just
3
dump it
million to cut.
You could add 500,000.
Cause that's including taking a $3 million
There you go.
loan to balance the budget.
Yeah, so highway, with this, highway is anticipating, I did put in that we were borrowing 3 million for 24 and 25 in there, so there is 1.78 million of construction in the highway that is using bond proceeds.
Can we just cut it to 2 for the next 2 years, and also cut back on a project?
Although in addition to the highway wants, you said 700,000 for.
750,000, that's in our levy ask, that's not, we did not put any funding source for that in our budget, because we figured, we didn't know how finance would want to handle that.
I'll let Scott explain it, the reason that this, I'll just give you guys a heads up on that. The reason the 750's in there for highway is my understanding, it being the second year on there, there was some money back in the day that was set aside for equipment fund. It was taken back by previous people here at the county. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sky, but there was like 500,000 or whatever built up there. Got taken back and put in the general fund. Then they lost anything they used to have built up for buying equipment. So now their ask is, the trucks and stuff are getting so dated. I think there was 2 or 3 pickups last year that went down and ended up getting sold off because they're rusted out, frames are bad in them. The trucks are as old as 20 years old for plowing. Scott is asking to figure out a way to start getting some of that equipment more updated. He already bought just one used pickup here recently, and he's fine with buying used pickups if he can find some Southern trucks, things like that. They've been buying used equipment, Southern stuff. Knock on wood, it sounds like that's been working okay. But he's like, I think he's supposed to be bringing us an option to possibly lease some trucks. I just heard bits and pieces of it, talked to Scott about it briefly. He threw out a number where he could lease 5 trucks for $250,000 for 5 years. Have you heard this yet, Sky? This could be off, we gotta get Scott in here and ask him, but if he could do that, then my thought was, and I didn't ask Scott this question, could he sell off some old equipment to help offset that $250,000 for that lease? But at the end of that 5 years, we either gotta buy those trucks or let them go back. So he's looking.
Leasing it.
Yeah, I think our biggest issue though is we had bought used plow trucks, and that has put us in a bad position because they were old when we bought them, and they're the same year as other trucks we had, so we have several that need to be replaced. They're gonna need to be replaced all at the same time. And we didn't have any plan of replacing them. We just, in the last couple of years have started buying one. 2023, we did not budget to buy one because we were still waiting for the 2 that we already had ordered. But if we're not replacing those plow trucks every year,
Did you get the 2 that you were waiting for now?
Second one's still not here, is it?
It's gotta be close though.
It's
We've
getting
gotta be close to getting the second one.
The other thing is, they both came in way over what they originally bid due to pricing.
Of course, yeah.
And the one was what, year and a half? So he almost needs to either order another truck going into 2024, or have the ability to order a truck, cause there's a good chance he may not see it till 2025. So it's not like he's budgeting stuff to get it next month, he's budgeting to get it a year from now, or possibly when it may come in.
The whole equipment fleet is old. And it's nickeling and diming us, so we're not making as much money in our equipment fund because we're spending, our equipment revenue to maintain it.
Yeah, I remember we looked at those numbers too. That it's something we need to look at, Phil. I mean, maybe we're missing something at highway. It's not that we're not open to criticism, but their repair bills
Jim's
went
old.
through the roof.
Jim's old, we don't get rid of him.
True. Although that could be put up for debate.
Don't let it go to vote.
Trying to think of, we took some highway money several years back. We used some of the equipment fund, but then we were going to fund a truck, $250,000 truck.
So what we did, so Jim's right, $500,000 was taken from the blacktop plant fund and used in the general fund, with the promise that we would bond for a blacktop plant. But the highway's paying for that whole bond. So the
Yeah.
$500 was just, moved. Highway didn't really get anything but a promise to bond for the blacktop plant fund for that $500,000. The $250,000 for the trucks, we've done that twice. We've bonded for the trucks, but highway reduced the levy they charged, by $250,000. Highway used their equipment fund to purchase that truck. we reduced the levy we charged so that the general fund had $250,000 extra to use for other capital projects. So we reduced our levy to get that bond money. So we still paid for that truck out of our equipment fund.
Plus, how much do we think went to highway and unforeseen expenses with that plant? 500,000? I mean, just ballparking, spitballing.
Yeah,
It was a lot.
yeah.
It was a lot of money. I think last year was like 2 to
So
300.
that all hit our our blacktop plant fund as well, and it's in the red. I mean,
That thing was not operational
no,
anywhere close to it when they got it up. I think you guys heard those stories.
it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's kinda like the
Plus the last
Methodist
two
church, we gotta
trucks.
change the bass.
The last 2 trucks, I think, were both quads,
Yes,
which was another $40,000-$50,000 more for a truck. And then they ran into all kinds of problems when they went to go and outfit them, because quads just aren't meant to be plow trucks, they should be gravel trucks. Even Monroe came back and told our new commissioner now, I was wondering why you guys were doing what you're doing. Because they've had to do all kinds of refitting of that truck, they have to drop that 4th axle up from underneath, put that belly plow up underneath there, it's just a total shit show from what I'm hearing. And a lot of work. And Scott wants to go back to track, so he'll be done with it. No, and then the other thing is Western Star. Do we need Western Stars? That's one of the most expensive trucks out there, you might as well buy a Peter or Kenworth too, you know, you might as well.
well,
And International's the one that's talking about, they have this program, I don't know if the program's gonna fit the county, I just heard inklings of it at the beginning here. He was gonna look into it more. Maybe it's no good when he gets into it further. But, you know, like the last truck was mid to upper 2s by the time it got done and got outfitted. With all the plows and everything put on it.
it was close to 300,000 for the truck and all the attachments.
For one
Yeah.
truck to get it on the road.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
That's a lot of money. If you can, I don't know, maybe it makes the lease thing sound pretty good, but I don't know. Like I said, is that just for the trucks? Do you still have to equip them? I don't know. If you still gotta equip them on top of the 250, well, that's a whole different ballpark.
Yeah, leasing or buying, I mean, you're paying either way.
You're paying either way. They just make it look really.
What do we owe you for lunch?
Big donations.
Yeah, you do.
You can, Phil's
You don't
gonna
have-
order pizza next week, you guys can contribute towards the.
We're not gonna contribute to him. We'll contribute to you.
That's gonna help me.
You wouldn't have brought it, I'd had to go buy it. I like it when you bring food, so I want you to stop and try to contribute to the kitty.
Oh, thank you. Brats tomorrow.
Ooh.
Are we adjourning?
Well, if we have, I guess nothing, well, we have more to talk about, but I guess we'll call it a day and we can sleep on it for the night. Come up with all kind of bright ideas tomorrow.
How to cut the budget.
That's right.
With that, we'll stand adjourned.
Thanks, Randy. You're my favorite part of the meeting today, is you adjourning.
We're adjourned.